Most business owners have no idea how many more sales calls they could be scheduling without spending more money on ads, and it's usually a lot more than they think. I'm Scott Rodriguez. I've been installing sales operation systems inside of businesses for the last 6 years across over 200 companies, and I've generated them over $300 million in sales. I've built a 3-step system to recover more money from the leads that you've already spent money on. It's the same system that we've installed in our partners at Net Revenue, and the same one that took one of our clients from $100K a month to now over $1.1 million a month in sales without them having to spend $1 more on ads. They over 10x'd without spending any more on ads. We used the leads that they were already generating to create that growth. And that's what we're gonna cover here today. So first, the leads in your CRM are the cheapest traffic source you own, okay? Somebody has to have ownership over those leads in your CRM. There are too many founders and too many businesses that have tens and thousands, hundreds and thousands of leads in their CRM, and nobody has ownership over converting them. So when I come on board into a company, that is usually the first place I start. I go look at what they've already paid for. What are the leads they've already generated? Now, obviously, not every lead is equal, right? If you've got leads that are 2 years old that haven't had any sort of communication versus a lead that's 5 minutes old, those leads should not be valued and should not be treated the same. But again, so many founders they give one shot, they try to close the lead, their sales team tries to close them, then the lead goes on the wayside and nobody is working on converting that lead. So one of the things we do is we have a role that's specifically dedicated to working older leads. It's usually the junior salesperson on the floor, okay? So you might have like a full cycle role that this is all they do, but for us, it's usually the junior salesperson where when you've just been hired, you're working the older leads before you get access to the newer leads. So one, this guy has a chip on his shoulder, right? He needs to close on these older leads to even get a chance at the better leads. So he's going to go at them with a certain level of hunger that your more seasoned sales reps on your account that have inbound volume just aren't going to do. And it is the best way to start converting on the older leads in your CRM is to have that guy that if they do not close those leads, they do not even get a position to begin with. And think about it, you've already spent the money on those leads, whether it's through Meta, through Google, through content. At one point or another, money was spent getting those leads into your CRM. So now if you bring another closer on board, a junior sales rep, and you tell him, hey, when you close 5 deals, you get access to new leads, and he brings in those 5 deals, let's say it's 10K a pop, he brings you 50K, you've already spent that money a long time ago. So that 50K now at that month is pure profit. It's significantly increasing your ROAS. It's gonna help you reinvest more into ad spend much more efficiently and much quicker. And I would do the same thing for new appointment setters. If you've got a new appointment setter, do not have them working on the new opt-ins. Do not have them working on the new leads. Have them work on the old leads, okay? You should have your smart lists in your CRM divvied up in a way where when you bring a new person on board, you tell them and you only give them access to certain smart lists. Okay, so for example, you might have a hot list, a warm list, a cold list, and a reactivation list is what we normally do. So the hot list is new inbound bookings, new inbound leads, webinar leads, basically the hottest leads. And it might change for you depending what your traffic sources look like. The warm list are people within the same last 2 weeks, right? If they've scheduled a call, last 2 weeks. If they opted in, but they didn't schedule a call, then maybe just the last week. The cold list, you get the idea, 2 weeks to 6 weeks, whatever that looks like. So when I get a new appointment setter on board, I'm gonna say, hey, you only get the cold list. You only work on these leads. Or you only get the reactivation list, the much older leads, depending on how many people you already have on your team. And then what I'm able to do is just give them access to only that one, okay? And then when I'm tracking their end of days, when I'm looking at their data, I know that they're working with those leads. They're not gonna have the same KPIs as my more seasoned guys that are working the higher end leads, but I give them a certain gate that they need to pass to then get access to the better leads. And again, whether it's a setter, a closer, a junior sales rep, them converting on those older leads, nobody else on your team is going to do it at the level that somebody has no other choice but to do it to then earn an opportunity on your calendar. So for us, that's why every new person has to start on those older leads. And again, when we start with a new client, when we bring a new business on board into Net Revenue, it's one of the first things we do, except we do it with the whole sales floor. Okay, so the entire sales floor, because we're new, we're bringing new sales guys on board. We're usually competing against their internal sales team, and the founders are usually giving us old leads because they don't want to give us their best leads. They don't know us. They just hired us. So that's kind of how we built our entire business, is by closing and converting these old leads that nobody else has used, and then proving to the founder that, hey, we can close on the old leads at a higher rate than your team can close on the new and the hot ones. So then they end up giving us their entire business, and we roll out from there. Now, one caveat is when you're working on these older leads, especially if you already have a lot of nurturing in place. If you've already been hitting hitting them, they've had a lot of communication from you. You cannot just go and hit them with the same thing that you've been communicating with them and hope to get different results. If there has been no nurturing in place, then yeah, it doesn't really matter. Anything is better than nothing. But if they've been getting this consistent nurturing, you need to be able to switch and have a different angle to then open their eyes and be like, oh, wait a minute, this actually might help me. So that leads us to the next step of the system. You need to do something a little bit different to open up their eyes and make them realize, oh, wait a minute, this might actually help me. But that leads us to the second step of the 3-step system. But real quick, before I dive into the second step, if you find this video valuable, obviously drop a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna continue posting on here every week and basically just giving away everything we've done in net revenue for free, how we've scaled our company and how we've scaled hundreds of other companies. Again, up to this point, we've done over $300 million in sales for the businesses we've worked for, and we've helped over 10 companies scale past $10 million a year from scratch, from zero to over $10 million a year. We've done it 10 times. We're going on our 11th. Actually, this month we should have our 11th, crossing that milestone for the first time. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe to follow along, because what you're learning on this channel is what's actually being used in the marketplace and what's actually working. All right, let's get into the second step of the framework. Old leads don't need a follow-up, they need a new reason to buy. Okay, so when you're converting these old leads in your CRM, a lot of the times you have to do what we call reactivation campaigns. The reason we call it reactivation campaigns and not follow-ups is because these are dormant leads. They haven't been contacted maybe, or they have been, but they haven't responded in a while. They've gone cold. They probably don't remember who you are. They probably just like are automatically archiving the messages and just not really paying attention or opening anything that they're getting from you. They are older leads that need to be reactivated before they can be sold. So if you're reaching out to them trying to sell them as like a follow-up and hey, I'm just following up, but they're more than a month old, more than 2 months old, you're really just sending them more spam into their junk that they're not really going to open or interact with. So how do we reactivate them? It's by giving them something new or repackaging something old in a way that kind of makes them lean in or makes them curious. Okay, so there's a lot of ways you can do this. A lot of the times what we do is we just pull one thing out of the service or the offer and we package it in as like a bonus. So really simple, if I'm doing like an SMS reactivation campaign, and within my service, I have like a one-on-one 45-minute onboarding call, let's just say. I might pull that out. They've been a lead for 2 months. They probably don't remember that. I might pull that out and I might say something like, hey, this week only, every single person we bring on board, we're giving them a 45-minute one-on-one strategy session to help them scale and do X, Y, Z, whatever that looks like, right? So I've pulled out an existing thing that I've already offered, but I've added as like a, hey, for this week only as a bonus. I've added as a bonus to kind of pique their intrigue. So you could do that by repackaging. You could do that by adding bonuses. The idea is that you just need some sort of a new hook. So sometimes I might use more macro level things that are happening in the world. So let's say the big beautiful bill that passed sometime around last year. All of our real estate accounts and all of our tax accounts, when that big beautiful bill passed, we had all of them do reactivation campaigns about the new laws from the bill that are now going to be able to be used to save money on taxes and get more bonus depreciation when buying real estate. So we were able to reactivate a ton of leads because they were like, hey, wait a minute, I've heard about this, I've seen this, but I didn't really realize it applied to me. Hold on, let me learn a little bit more. And the important thing is we're not trying to sell them on that text. We're just trying to get them to respond, okay? All we want is a response, and then we're gonna call them up. All we want is a next step. I don't need to send them a checkout link or a calendar link even. I just want them to respond, okay? So that's the first way you're gonna reactivate leads, is by repackaging whatever was already in place. Whether it's through the bonus, like I said, through pulling out things inside of the program and just package them differently, or using these kind of like macro level things that are happening in the world, political events, whatever it is, and turning them into a new reason to buy, basically. The other way we reactivate leads within a CRM is we offer them something for free. So this is probably the easiest way to reactivate people. I try to offer them something they probably haven't already gotten, and then I'll do the same thing, is if I can package like macro level events to it, even better, right? So I've got a bunch of old leads. We had the big beautiful bill come out. I'm gonna offer a free Q&A explaining exactly how the big beautiful bill is gonna help you save $100,000 on your tax bill this year, for example, right? So that now is gonna pique all kinds of interest. People are gonna register for this free Q&A and you'll be able to reactivate a ton of those leads. So offering a free thing is the second way that I would reactivate a ton of these leads. Whether it's a lead magnet, whether it's a new calculator, you know, for example, the tax, like again, we have a lot of tax clients, so I'm using that as an example, but the tax bill is always constantly changing. So just packaging like a calculator really quick, like, hey, this new tax code thing that just came out, we've got this calculator for it. Here's how you can, let me know if you want it, I'll send it over, and you're able to see how much money you can save this year. And then, hey, I want it. Great, send it over to them, give them a call. Hey, did you get access to it? Here's how you use it. You get to call them from this like guise of customer support, and you're not being a salesperson anymore. You're now there to serve them. And it really helps with pickup rates and just overall responsiveness. So what's the lesson here? As I said before, the leads in your CRM are the cheapest leads that you can buy. And when you go to those leads, when you go to those older leads, you have to repackage and sell them something new or give them a new reason to buy. A no from a lead is not a no from forever. It hardly ever actually is. And if you've got really good reactivation, you got really good nurturing in place, a lot of times you're going to be closing people that have been in your ecosystem for over a year. Constantly building new resources, new lead magnets, new free stuff that you can give to them. And then again, constantly repackaging your nurturing so that you're reactivating people and getting them to raise their hand. So now the third part of the entire process, repackaging and reactivating your leads is phenomenal. Repackaging is phenomenal. But what is even better than reactivating your leads is putting together a system that never lets your leads go cold in the first place. Okay, so I saved this one for last for a reason, because it is the most important out of all the three we've gone through so far. But building a proper nurturing system in place so that your leads don't even go cold to begin with is going to be the most important thing you can do out of the three here. Again, though, when we bring on a new partner, they've rarely had this in place, which is why we need those first two things first to reactivate everybody before we put this system in place. So the key when we're building nurturing, right? Because you hear people talk about, hey, you got to nurture your leads. You got to send emails, have a 30-day email sequence for every new lead that comes in, or SMS, and offer them value and make the ask and XYZ, XYZ. A lot of people say a lot of things about how to nurture leads, but there's a few key things that I'm going to cover here that truthfully are the only things that really matter when you're nurturing your leads. The main thing is that the sale doesn't happen unless you ask for it, okay? So when you're building your nurturing campaigns, there always has to be an action that the lead can take at the end of it. Usually you want to think of it like a web, right? Whereas everything that you send them, every email, every SMS, it has an action ascribed to it, and you want to make sure you're not asking for too much too early. Okay, so depending what stage they're in of awareness, I've talked about the stages of awareness in other videos, but depending what stage of awareness they're in, where they came from, you're going to be making different level of asks in those nurturing. But the key is that there's always an ask. So let's say they came in from an opt-in on some sort of like really simple lead magnet that's very top of funnel. On all of our emails at the end, we have a PS on all of our emails. I actually took this from Ryan Deiss, so I can't take credit for this. He calls it the perfect PS. So on all of our emails, we have a PS that has the action. If they came from a lead magnet that just opted in, that action is going to be just like one extra little step. So maybe instead of like a small one-pager lead magnet, the PS is going to have a simple action to watch this evergreen webinar, right? Like, hey, watch this 30-minute training now if you want. Or maybe it's going to have like, hey, go look at these case studies. But I probably won't have the, hey, book a call. So the key here, and where most people go wrong with their lead nurturing, is the sale doesn't happen unless you ask for it, okay? So again, like I said, there's a few important things that are part of lead nurturing that make it work. This is probably the most important one. On every nurture sequence, on every email and every text, there has to be an ask or an action ascribed to it. Go do this, go look at this thing next, or book this call, learn more, download this, whatever that is. So either an ask or an action. Now, you don't always want to be pitching everybody on every single thing, and you don't always want the focus of it to be on every single thing. What I really like doing is having it in the PS. If you do it in the PS of every email, I actually took this from Ryan Deiss. He calls it the perfect PS, but obviously a lot of people do this. But the way Ryan Deiss does it is he's got the perfect PS. He's got step 1, 2, and 3. PS, step 1, number 1, look at this other lead magnet here. Number 2, watch this VSL. Number 3, or book a call with my team and find out how to work with us. So he basically has multiple CTAs in an email so that the people who are ready to book a call will book a call. The people who aren't ready will be able to do one of the other two things to then move themselves down the stages of awareness and eventually be ready to book a call. Now, there's obviously a lot of marketers that'll say you shouldn't have multiple CTAs in an email, And I agree with that. At the start, when you're launching new things and you have these new campaigns, keep it simple, have one. But at scale, that's what a lot of these guys are doing, and that's what a lot of our clients are doing, is they've got multiple CTAs, multiple actions for the different stages of awareness, okay? But if you don't have that right now and you're just doing this for the first time, do one CTA. Depending where the lead came from, you can make that CTA a bigger ask or a smaller ask. So if they came from a really entry-level lead magnet, maybe just give them another easy to download and easy to digest lead magnet, right? Maybe just give them a YouTube video. Just say, hey, PS, if you want to learn this thing in this video, go here and have the link to my YouTube. And they don't have to give information. They just go watch the YouTube video. But then in the caption of that YouTube video is maybe another lead magnet, right? Or maybe the link to your VSL or the link to apply. So you're just nudging them down, pushing them down the path and the stages of awareness to go from, like I've talked about in other videos, to go from problem aware, which is where the people you're marketing towards usually are, to then they start becoming solution aware. They've read this lead magnet, they start understanding what the solution is, to now they've gone to your YouTube, they've gone to your VSL, now they're product aware, and they get to book a call and learn from your sales team how to buy and how to sign up. So if all of your nurturing sequences are doing something to move them further down the line and allowing them to take an action, now all of a sudden, you're actually gonna start converting people from them. They're gonna start taking the next steps they need to eventually become a customer. And if you've got multiple CTAs, then the people who are ready to move and the people who are ready to buy, they will do so and they will get on the calendar and they will buy, and you'll have people doing that. But the ones who aren't, there's something in there for them as well. This is how you avoid always being the guy who's pitching in your emails or pitching in your SMS, especially when you put it in the PS. It's really harmless when you put it in the PS. So a good action item is go look at your nurturing sequences, go look at your emails, go look at your SMS, look at the last lines. What is next for the prospect who has just read it? Put yourself in the prospect's shoes. Did you just come from a simple opt-in and then probably not even watch the VSL? And then in that first email, you're telling them to go book a call with some stranger they don't know? If that's the case, you're probably not gonna get good results. But maybe they just opted in, and then in that email, you're giving them more value and you're showing them a case study and you're opening their eyes. And then you're saying, hey, if you wanna book a call, you can. Or if you wanna go look at this, 20 or 40 page manifesto on my thoughts on the industry, you can go look at that here and learn more. Or if you want to download my free book, you can go do that here. And then you just give everybody a next step within those emails. So that is it. That is a 3-step process, how to convert more sales calls from the leads that you've already paid for. This is crucial if you want to scale ads profitably. The more you scale ads, the more expensive your leads will get. So the better and more effective you get at converting on those leads that didn't buy the first go around, the more successful you will be at scaling and the better margins you will have at scale. But again, getting the leads onto the calendar is only half the battle. If you get tons of book calls and you recover a lot of leads, but your show rate sucks and you only have 30% show rate, you're gonna wanna go watch this video where I break down exactly how to bring your show rate from 30% to well over 70%. Everything in that video has been tested across over 500,000 sales calls, verifiably recorded sales calls, and has been measured by our data science team over at Net Revenue. So what is in this video works, it's proven, and I highly recommend you implement it into your business.